Alrighty. Hey folks, how you doing? Ron Raymond here from the Raymond Report Sports Betting Podcast with Ross Benjamin from Ross Benjamin Sports for Wednesday, August 26th. Hopefully you're having yourself a good start to your hump day. Mr. Ross Benjamin, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, everything's great, Ron. Winning day yesterday. We went between the both of us a perfect 6-0 yesterday. Me going 2-0, you 4-0. So those of you who are listening out there, you need to start buying our picks at atspicks.com.
Yeah, you're a bit. I'm looking at your chair. You're a little bit lopsided there. You want to bring that wallet back the other way?
Yeah, exactly. I got to what I got to do is put it in the other pocket, and then I'll go the other way.
Yeah, no, you know what, Ross? We joke, but there's a saying there: we kid, but we care, right?
Yeah.
It's, we had a good day yesterday, and sometimes you got to pump the tires because when you have a losing day, it could bring you down emotionally for a couple hours. But for my selections yesterday, 3-0 in baseball. Again, the newsletter won. And folks, you can get the Rain Report newsletter each and every day. Just visit our website, atsstats.com. There'll be a little pop-up menu. Put in your email address, and about between 2 and 4 Eastern, I send out the newsletter. 3-0 baseball yesterday, Ross. We both had Tampa Bay. You had the Clippers. And, you know what? Great day yesterday for both our clients. And hopefully we can keep that going today.
Yeah, look forward to it. Like I alluded to yesterday, and we talked about briefly, is I was 1-1 the day before, but you pick up the pieces and move on, Ron. That's what's called being professional. Like you said, you get a little agitated for about an hour, you go to sleep, you wake up and get right back at it, and you have more incentive to have a winning day.
Yeah, and folks, if you're listening to the Rain Report Sports Betting Podcast with Ross Benjamin for the first time, the way I would say to approach this show is much like like our Jim Rome used to say, right? Give the show a week, and give us a week or two, and really listen to us, and you'll see by the end of the week or the end of the 2 weeks, we're hoping you'll be a more informed better, because the experience that Ross Benjamin and myself have, we've been in this industry a long time, and we're not saying we're gambling profits or anything like that, but we do we do have experience on our side, and our mission of this podcast is to have fun. We just talked about that off air, but also give out information, winning information that people can use, and hopefully we make you think twice before you make that bet, right, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, again, along the lines of what Ron said, yeah, give us a week, and our goal, my goal, and your goal is to make the listener, the viewer, a smarter sports bettor today than he was yesterday.
Yeah. And you know what? Speaking of the Rain Report, Ross, we treat it like the stock market. And we've been saying this SBI, if you're not a firm believer in it yet, give it some time, because it's proven us right. And again, let's do a screen share right here, Ross, and you let me know if you see this when it comes online.
I see it, Ron.
Okay, perfect. Now, here, I'm going to show you something, Ross, and the audience. We've been talking about favorites in the last, oh my God, maybe the last, 3 weeks, how it's been coming in. And here we're finally starting to see a break in the pattern. I call this the disruptor, Ross. We're starting to see a bit of a disruption into the favorites, and it just coincides with the halfway point of the baseball season. I know I laugh because we're calling August the halfway point.
I know.
But look at this. Yesterday, the favorites, Ross, 8-8, 4-5, 7-7. So we're starting to see a bit of normalcy when it comes to favorites, in baseball and underdogs. Like finally, the underdogs are meeting their match, and I think what's happening, Ross. I'll give you a situation like Tampa Bay. They showed on air yesterday the pitching injuries that they had. They listed about Sharonis, Charlie Morton, like all these. It's not just starters, and now it's the bullpen. Like Beeks went down yesterday, and these are the types of things. But they still won the game. Tampa Bay, mind you, playing Baltimore. But these are the things that are going to start happening, and I think we're going to start seeing more of situations where bullpens, single A call-ups, double A call-ups. People are going to have to improvise, because I think the wear and tear on starting pitching is starting to take effect.
Yeah, in the bullpens, like I've been touching upon from the get-go, Ron, you gotta account for bullpens more so now than and any other year. And in terms of Tampa Bay, they've been well known to try to piece games together with their bullpen. But like you said, when them injuries start to add up, I mean, how deep? For example, last year there was a point where they just used 3 starting pitchers, and the other 2 turns in the rotations they would piece it together with a bullpen. We start losing key starters like Charlie Morton. Now your starting pitching depth gets quality starting pitching depth gets hit pretty hard, and now you're putting a lot of pressure on your bullpen, right, Ron? I mean, they're having to log more innings. The good thing is right now it's still, if I recall correctly, it's still a 30-man roster. So you could really a manager could really load up on having a lot of guys in his bullpen this year. That's how they could alleviate that. Ron, you mentioned the favorites yesterday, 8-8, and I mentioned to you off air the big chalks that lost yesterday. There was 5 favorites, money line favorites of -195 or greater that lost yesterday, including the Mets losing twice in that role in a doubleheader to Miami.
Yeah, Detroit beat the Cubs. That was a big one. Boston won against Toronto, and the reasons we're saying normally in a good year that's not a surprise, but the way Boston's been playing and Toronto coming off a pretty good, decent outing against Tampa Bay in that 4-game series, splitting it twice. That was an upset.
Yeah, San Francisco beating the Dodgers.
Wow.
Kansas
Johnny
City
Cueto.
beating, 10-8 game. Again, a high-scoring game in San Fran. Kansas City beating St. Louis, so coming from behind to win that game. So St. Louis was -195 and the Dodgers were -210.
Yeah, no, it's that's why you got to follow the lines, have your pulse on the market conditions, because by having your pulse on the market condition, it gives you a mindset of what you should be doing and approaching your handicapping on that day. And we talked about this yesterday in our podcast, is that everybody has their system or the way they handicap, and if you don't adjust on the fly, like, I talked about when I coached football, we'd have our meetings at halftime with the coaches and we'd make adjustments during game. And this is the same type of process. You got to make your adjustments handicapping, because if you stick what you think is right, the market's going to tell you something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And the proof is in the pudding this year.
Yeah. NBA, Ross, man, is the bookmaker. I don't know when he's going to start adjusting his totals numbers, because the over is it's like the favorites in baseball. Look at this, 83.3% in the last 2 days. And look at this here, 3-1 on the 22nd of August, 3-1, 3-1. And that's what, 9, 11, and 3 the last 4 days. Man, now we're in a very bullish market. I got a feeling that you got to start looking at unders. And my theory of betting, Ross, the computer pick in NBA right now, check this out. Since the 20th of August, 20-2 straight up.
Wow, that computer guy's a pretty smart individual. All right.
I would love to meet him, but he's always seems to be,
he's incognito.
He's in a different time zone right now.
Exactly.
So so you got, like I said, you got to pump the tires when they're doing well, and when you're not doing well, you still got to face the music. And,
you got to be transparent. That's the bottom line, because we're going. I don't care how long you've been doing this, and Ron could attest to this. You're gonna have bad runs. Sometimes you're way off. Other times you're just, bad luck, and you think the world is against you. You can't think that way. You got to wake up the next day and attack.
And here's a life tip. The older you get, the better you want to sleep at night. So tell the truth and be transparent.
Yeah, exactly.
Because getting those 8 hours is, if you're getting 8, you're lucky. But especially with all these bubble games, right? Like Vancouver, who would have saw that coming last night?
Yeah, I know.
Looking at NHL, Ross, I love seeing a lot of yellow here, because it tells me we're in open season with the bookmaker. He doesn't have the psychological edge on us. And favorite, look, like there's no pattern really. If you look at the last 7 days, you see a lot of disruption right here in the whites. I call white disruptions. We're pretty much in open season 50-50 market for NHL betting.
Yeah. If I could just switch gears 1 second, we covered the NBA, and I forgot to mention this. Keep an eye on that Clippers and Mavericks series, Ron. The zigzag theory in NBA playoff betting is fully in effect in that series.
Oh, absolutely.
The teams have alternated wins in each game.
Yep.
In doing so, not only has the zigzag theory gone 5-0 straight, or 4-0, because the first game you can't count, 4-0 straight up, but it's also gone 4-0 against the spread. And
Yeah,
oh boy, Toronto scores 150 to eliminate Brooklyn the other day. And would the Clippers have 154 yesterday?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's and I got a feeling the longer we go in this bubble scenario, these guys are human. They want to get home and see their families, and I got a feeling we're going to start seeing teams mail it in.
Yeah.
Eventually, I hate to talk like that because it's sports.
Well, and that's a good point, Ron. And you got to be able to capture that. If you're watching, you got to be able to capture. That's why it's important to watch games too, because you could capture in sense a team's body language, right, Ron?
Hey, watching that Houston game the other day against Oklahoma City, like subconsciously you see shots that people are making. You're like, you just want to get out of the bubble, don't you? Like
Yeah, exactly.
You start talking to yourself, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, come on, what kind of like I think it was Tucker making that 3-pointer in the last like 10 seconds. There was no loft on the ball. It was just a straight narrow shot, and I'm like, oh, come on, that thing never had a shot running left your finger. But
I tell you, we're seeing some big individual performances too. You can make a case. This has been, if you're from an entertainment standpoint, Ron, if you like big individual performances and a lot of scoring, you certainly have been entertained during these NBA playoffs. I mean, you're looking at guys like Jamal Murray all of a sudden stepping up. He had 40-plus points in each of his last 3 games. Luka Doncic, who, if you didn't know about him already, this kid is a star at 21 years old. A couple 40-plus games, triple doubles, and the kid from Utah, his name escapes me right now. He's had a couple 50-plus point games. Donovan Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Yeah. So just it's been entertaining to watch.
Well, less distractions, and yes. I bet you, dollars to donuts, as my grandmother used to say. The teams that I bet you that have the most single guys that, they're not in the rush because I'd be curious to see the teams that have the most single guys on their teams, how they're doing.
Yeah, but the other part of the equation is the NBA has allowed these guys to bring their families there.
Oh, did they? They're allowed
they allowed their immediate families, their wife and their kids,
Oh, that's awesome.
If indeed they wanted to. And there's worse places to get stuck than Disney World, So
yeah, poor Muffin. You're stuck at Disney World for
exactly.
Yeah. So. All right, let's get to MLB. Hey, Lucas Giolito, our guy.
Yeah.
No, yesterday. We, if you listen to our show, we're always pumping his tires along with Lance Lynn. Those are 2 of almost our show favorites. And looking at the line here, we got -200 for Chicago. The over/under set at 9. ATS forecast, computer pick. Going to lean with the Bucks here as an upset. 5.57, 3.55, over/under at 9.12. We have Trevor Williams going for Pittsburgh with Dallas Keuchel going for the White Sox. You know what, Ross? I think you had a stat that teams that come off a no-no.
Yeah. I mean, teams that come off a no-hitter like the Chicago White Sox, and they're playing the same team the next day. Since 2014, they've gone 11-3. So there's no letdown. And then also, if that team is a -110 to -300 money line favorite, those games have gone 6-1 over the total. So it's very interesting because it popped in my head yesterday. How do teams do after a no-hitter? So I would have thought that they would have been in for a letdown, right, Ron? Because that's pretty emotional.
Yeah, you know what? You bring a great point. Had the opponent been, say, the Cubs or the Brewers or something like that, but Pittsburgh, I don't see how this could be a major letdown.
Right, and they're deflated, right? They just got no hit. I got so excited talking about this game. I don't know if you heard it. I just dropped my coffee cup.
Yeah, I was wondering. I said, did I lose Ross? And that's why I went to your no.
I got when you brought up Lucas Giolito. It was like,
you got all excited. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Awesome. All right, we got the Yankees taking on the Braves. Now this line has been crazy on the feeds all day. I've been talking offline with Ross about this. Like I saw, Garrett Cole at minus 115. I said, no, there's something wrong there. And looking at the latest lines here, it's again, I'm looking everywhere, and the lines are either I do a refresh, but I'm seeing some crazy. I'm seeing Atlanta minus 115, but I'm thinking, oh, okay, now I know why. Because they got Jensen going for the Yankees at the 4:10 game.
Yeah.
So they're playing. Okay, so this is not Garrett Cole now, and probably Garrett Cole is going to pitch the second. No, you got Tanaka against Reed. So maybe they're giving Garrett Cole a day off here. I don't know.
Yeah, that's surprising because he was scheduled to pitch yesterday in that rainout.
Yeah,
So there must be a strategy there, you know.
Yeah, so you know what, Ross? We'll just give the forecast without having pitching influences here. Yankees 4.93, Atlanta 3.7. The over/under set at 8.63. If that line stays right there, then this will be a 7-inning game, right?
Yes.
Going into this game, Ross, Atlanta coming off that 5-4 loss to Philly in their last game. Atlanta's been a pretty good team at home. A bit of a Jekyll and Hyde scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Yankees, there's a certain couple of teams that just like Phillies, Yankees, teams that just seem to have a lot of days off because of COVID. It must be tough trying to get into a rhythm.
Yeah, especially now you're coming off a 3-game losing streak, right, Ron? They lost the last 3 against Tampa Bay at home. And by the way, folks, Ian Anderson, the starting pitcher for Atlanta, that's not the front man from Jethro Tull, by the way.
Yeah, one of my first concerts I've ever seen. Now looking at the Jekyll and Hyde Braves here, 10-4 at home, 6-8 on the road, and should be you know what?
You got their favorite and underdog splits in front of you by chance?
No, I don't.
Yeah, they're like really, really good as a money line.
Oh, underdog?
Yeah.
Yes.
As a favorite, the Braves are really good, which are going to be a favorite in game 1.
Yeah, 9-3 is a favorite, Ross, home favorite.
Yeah, and then as an underdog?
1-1.
Okay, what I would like to know on the road, I think they've only won 1 game as a dog all year.
Yeah, 1-8 on the road and 5-0 as a favorite. So yeah, they're a chalky team, right?
Yep, exactly.
All right, Philly, Washington. You got Aaron Nola. We've talked about him a few times. He's a stud pitcher going up against Patrick Corbin. Corbin, when he first came up, I remember he was touted as one of the top aces, but he's been pretty average of late. And going up against Aaron Nola today. Again, the price here, I got 110 on Nola. I'm just going to take a quick peek here at my at Bookmaker to see what.
Yeah, I got 113.
Yeah, so we're in the same ballpark here.
Yep.
And so good pitching matchup, Corbin against Nola. 11-14 on the year for the Phillies, 11-16. Both teams underachieving when you think of all the talent that's on. And you said it many times, losing Rendon. They're not, and that's the problem when you win a national championship of any sorts. You're going to get cherry picked, right? Guys are going to come and take some of your best players, and some of these guys they think they're worth more than they are because they won a championship, but they got to ride that gravy train and get paid, right?
Yeah, well, your time is limited in professional sports, and when you're coming off the kind of year the Rendon had, you got to cash in if you're a free agent, Ron. You know, Washington wasn't willing to divvy up, so. Washington right now, Ron, 4-11 at home. That's terrible. They're also on an overroll. Talking about cycles, Ron. I mentioned this yesterday. 5-0 over in their last 5, and 12-1 over in their last 13 games. And you mentioned Patrick Corbin. 0-2 in his last 2 with a 6.35 ERA. Aaron Nola he's started 5 games this year. His ERA is very good. But keep in mind, his first 4 starts were at home. His last start was on the road. That was his first road start, and he didn't even get out of the second inning against Atlanta. And also, he started twice last year at Washington and gave up 11 earned runs in 8 2/3 innings pitched. So just something to keep in mind. You might want to take a look at the over despite this pitching matchup.
Yeah, we got 5.54 to 4.2, the over-under at 9.74. So it does like it to go over the total. And like you said, a lot of overs have been coming in for the Nats.
And now also around the Phillies bullpen is horrible, okay?
Yeah.
And Washington is shaky at best.
Yeah, we should have a prop for that. Just put a button, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Speaking of bullpens, Boston Red Sox taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Boston, got a W yesterday, and I think they caught the Blue Jays in a flat spot coming off, Toronto played the Tampa Bay Rays, and prior to that game, that series, I'm just going to bring up their history here a bit of their last few games. I want to just say, okay, here we go. Toronto played, they did play the Orioles, the Phillies, and then the Rays. So they did have some, Phillies public team. They're not having a great year, but they still got Harper to deal with. The Rays, they're having a great season. And then, yesterday Boston, maybe they had a little bit of a mental breakdown because of Boston not having a good season at 10-20, and Toronto back to 500 at 14-14. Boston reminds me a bit of St. Louis. Now, there comes a time where now is the time if you're going to make a run. We talked about it yesterday. They were kicking tires around for starting pitcher. They were looking at Cool and Trevor Williams in Pittsburgh earlier in the week. Maybe they think they're going to make the playoffs. 6-5 is the computer pick, with 11 is the total. Don't ever see flat numbers like this on the total, but hey, it is what it is. Colton Brewer looking like he might get the nod, and it might be Matt Shoemaker, but Ross, we think there'll be a rain delay in this game, right?
Yeah, it looks like the weather forecast in Buffalo is 40% rain and a steady rain for, through game time till 3 or 4 hours after and 2 hours before game time. The most surprising part of that 9-7 result yesterday in that game played in Buffalo, which has been a hitter's paradise and a home run derby type of park this year, is despite that high scoring game, there was only one home run hit in that game, Ron. So
wow.
Just a word of note.
Duly noted. Baltimore taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, we talked about the problem to show that Tampa Bay just getting, hammered with the injuries and the starting and the bullpen. The bookmakers here got them favorite at 149, over under at 8.5. Forecast likes Tampa Bay 5.08, 3.13, the over under at 8.21. Tyler Glasnow pitched a gem yesterday. I think he had 13 strikeouts. And Ross, we said this the last couple of days on the Rays. The starting pitcher for Tampa Bay has got to give a minimum of 6 innings if they want a chance to win, or give them a higher percentage chance of winning. And sure enough, the bullpen came in. Beeks got injured. He add him to the list, but they got Garcia. I think it's Garcia that came in to close it. They got him the day before from Philly in an acquisition. And you know what? Tampa Bay, you got to be impressed with the way that with what's going on with all the injuries, that they just keep plugging along, even though it's Baltimore, and Baltimore have shown signs of up and down. Asher Wojciechowski going today up against Trevor Richards. This is going to be a tough one for the Rays today. Yeah,
it's a tough call. I mean, you would think Tampa Bay would be the side because they're a minus 150 favorite, but one of them situations like Ron just alluded to, how long could Tampa Bay keep winning at the rate they're winning when their pitching staff is being decimated by injury? This might be a series they can get away with that, Ron, against the Orioles, but it'd be interesting to see going forward, if they don't get healthy with their pitching staff, how they do against more quality opponents.
Yeah. You know what? On a side note, there's one guy in Tampa Bay I absolutely love. I've been watching Tampa Bay a lot because I futures ticket. G-Man Choi. This guy looks like a riot. I love this guy. Every time I see him, he looks like he's having fun. He's the type of guy, like if you're doing pickup, he's one of your first picks you want, because he just looks like a guy that likes
an overweight Korean. You know what I mean? And he's just so jovial. His body language. You're right.
I love watching him, and it looks like he's having a great time out there. It's good to see. Minnesota taking on the Cleveland Indians. What a game this is! Last couple of days. It might be a future AL West or AL Central opponent for each other. But looking at Minnesota taking on the Tribe here today, minus 115, and Clevenger coming out of the doghouse here in Cleveland. Up against Jose Barrios, who's had an up and down year, but I think he had a good outing in his last outing, because I think I had him. That's why. And looking at the Twins here, the last 3 games gone under. The last 2 has gone under for Cleveland. Both 2 games went under, Ross. I think we're in for another treat here today with Clevenger and Barrios.
Yeah, this is a pitching. If you like pitching, whether it be starting pitching and bullpens, this is a series to watch. However, a word of warning, buyer beware on Barrios. 2 road starts this year, at 8.68 ERA and a 2.04 WHIP. Also, this will be the first start for Clevenger since August 5th, since he threw that party, Ron.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting how he comes back after that 3-week layoff. He has the security of knowing if he can give them 4 or 5 good innings, this Cleveland bullpen is just absolutely terrific. These teams have played 6 times this year, Ron. All 6 have gone under the total. And also the Minnesota Twins, coming off that 4-2 loss yesterday, they are 5-0 in their last 5 games following a loss.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's law of average theory right there.
A lot of conflicting info here, you know?
Yeah,
So.
no, I'm just taking a look at some of the systems from the league stats, because I like to, it's good to have team trends, but I also like to see in a COVID year like this, how because everybody's affected by their
season trends are
absolutely. And that's what I'm basing a lot of my research on when I do my picks today. I'll be honest, I said that yesterday, and knock on wood, it's going along good. Cubs taking on the Tigers, Chicago. I always say it takes a couple of days before the mental breakdown happens. I don't know what it is, but I think yesterday the Cubs got caught a bit against the Tigers, because these are games you got to win. You're one of the league leading in the division, and you're playing a team that you should be really beating. Looking at the National League Central, Chicago 18-11. They're 3 games behind the Cards. Cards really they missed an opportunity yesterday to get 2 games behind. In a shortened season, you can't let these squander like that. But looking at the Detroit Tigers in the American League Central, they're 6.5 games behind, 12-16 on the year. Had a good start, but now they're going to face John Lester against Michael Fulmer. And looking at the forecast, 6 to 1.75, over under at 7.75, 10.5 is the total, Ross. We had our line today on Chicago at -176. The Kogo's at 50%. Lester, I know, I think he lost his last start against the White Sox, so he'll probably want to rebound here today.
Yeah, his last 2, as a matter of fact, he lost against the White Sox in Milwaukee. And in those 2 outings, he gave up 13 earned runs in 9 2/3 innings pitched, Ron. So he really got rocked the last 2. But both of those starts were at Wrigley Field, Ron, and Lester hasn't done well there this year. But on the road's been a different story. 2 road starts this year, a 0.82 ERA and an 0.54 WHIP. Michael Fulmer, I mean, this guy, when he first came up with Detroit, looked like a star in the making, but boy, he struggled. In 4 starts this year, a 9.52 ERA and a 2.03 WHIP, 6 home runs allowed, and 11 1/3 innings pitched. Both of these bullpens are shaky. The wind is going to be blowing out toward the left field foul pole at 11 miles per hour. Might want to take a look at the over in this game. I know Lester's been sharp in his 2 road starts, but he's also been prone to giving up the long ball on occasion. So interesting matchup here from the standpoint of how Lester will bounce back after those 2 dismal starts. And can the Tigers actually win 2 in a row? They haven't done that for quite a while, if I remember right.
Yeah, and you know what? After a road loss this season for the Cubs, they averaged 6.5 runs for in the next game.
Yeah.
So this is a good spot, and the price seems about right. So one of my indicators, Ross, I'm gonna have to put a little check mark here on my sheet to make sure when I do my research that I just remember that. Miami taking on the Mets. Man, talk about the Miami Marlins team here. They did you think they're gonna go in the tank like Baltimore and Detroit, but these guys they're not going away. Like
no.
I think they really want to make the playoffs here in Miami. And looking at their records, Ross, looking at the National League East, they're only a half a game behind the Atlanta Braves. Granted, the Braves missing a few games here. 14-11 on the year, 5-5 in their last 5-10 games, 3-game win streak. Now the bookmaker has a big. When I first did my first broadcast this morning, I saw like the 7. I said, okay, is this a 7-inning game or something? But then it dawned on me, Jacob deGrom up against Eliseo Hernandez, and that's a pretty good pitching matchup here today. Yeah. You know what? This could be a quick game here today. What's the over-under? Maybe on 217. I would put the over-under here on this game.
Yeah, might be. I mean, you're right about Hernandez from Miami. He's pitched awfully well this year, Ron. I'm looking for the stats on him. I know he had some. He's got some pretty good, a real good ERA, I believe, in 4 starts.
Yeah, 2.29, and he's got a WHIP of 0.76.
That's excellent. That's excellent. You know, you got to wonder what's going on with the Mets, right, Ron? I mentioned yesterday, crucial series, because in a year in which 8 teams are going to make the playoffs in each league, Miami was holding down that number 8 seed, and the Mets were just 1.5 behind. And, you know, you would think the Mets, this was an excellent opportunity for them to seize control and make a run. And lo and behold, they go out and they get shut out in both games of the doubleheader. And they lose both games as a -196 and -195 favorite. Boy, oh boy, talk about deflating. How do you respond today is going to tell me a lot about, are they going to have any chance to make the playoffs whatsoever?
Yeah, the Mets at home this season, coming off a left-handed pitcher, 1-5 in the next game. Yeah. So tough. Hey, but you know, the good news for if you're a New York Mets fan, you got Jacob deGrom going today, and he's been pretty decent so far. I'm seeing in his last 3 starts, 5.3 run support, 2.3 runs against. So that total right there where it should be at 7. Oakland taking on the Texas Rangers. Now Oakland got back in the win column, and 10-3 win yesterday against the Rangers. You got Mike Fiers going here today against Colby Allard. The A's a 158 favorite, over under set at 8.5. ATS forecast, computer pick, going to lean with Texas, 5.46, 5.29, the over under at 10.75. Looking at this matchup here, Ross, Fiers, according to this here, last 5 starts, the A's are 4-1 in those starts. I had a -183 price here today, again 158. Just when you think Oakland's going to hit some type of losing streak, they bounce back and put a 10 on you.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a pitching staff that's that good, because really Oakland hasn't hit like we expected him to hit this year. However, the problem lies within here. Mike Fiers has struggled this year. I know they're 4-1, but it's not because of his performance level. I don't know what his ERA is for the year. I believe it's over 5 at least.
5.81.
Yeah. And this might be a spot to fade the A's with Fiers on the mound, especially if Texas can get the lead in this game. That would be key for the Rangers, because you don't want to fall behind Oakland going into the 6th or 7th inning. Their bullpen is just lights out.
Yeah, one thing I'm putting a lot of emphasis, Ross, and when I'm doing my handicapping, the whip, which you brought to my attention at the beginning of the year, it plays a huge factor, but also innings pitch. I want to see if we're getting a workhorse. Yep. Like yesterday, Brandon Woodruff from Milwaukee, he was averaging close to 90 innings pitch, 90 pitches per game.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty good innings pitch. I think was averaging like 6. But yeah, those are things that I'm really considering. And I'm looking at Fiers in the last 3 starts, 5.1, 6, and 3.2. But you know, he's up and down. The only thing saving him, he's playing on a good team right now, I think. Put him on an average team, I don't think we're having the same conversation.
No, I mean, he's got good run support this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the A's have bailed him out a couple times with some late comebacks.
Yeah, Cincinnati taking on the Brew Crew. You know what? Luis Castillo had a good game. He pitched a gem. He just had one bad inning, and it cost him. And I don't know if you watched that game. There were some controversial calls in that game. And you know, what can you say about Josh Hader of the stopper for the closer for the Brewers, the Matt Hader? Man, I was listening to radio this morning, and somebody says they don't think he's allowed a hit this year, not just a run, but a hit. I don't think anybody's hit off this guy yet. I'd have to look into it deeper, but he's probably, you know what? He's probably the best closer in baseball right now. And looking at the price here, 126 the price, over under set at 8.5. ATS forecast, computer pick, going to go Milwaukee, 5.03, 4.05. Sonny Gray taking the ball here today for the Reds up against Adrian Hauser for Milwaukee. And last 5 games for the Reds have gone under the total. They're on a are they on a 4-game losing streak? Yeah, I think they are. And Milwaukee, winner of 2 straight. It's funny, the law of average, how it works, Ross? You go in Pittsburgh, you get shut out. And then you come home, and then all of a sudden
you come home where you've gone entering this series. They were 2-6 at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hey, it just, and these are the cycles, people, they ask me all the time, well, what kind of cycles are you talking about? Well, that's a good example of a performance cycle. A team that gets shut out by 3 in Pittsburgh and then come home and have an opportunity to take 3 away from the Reds.
Yeah, and talk about not hitting. This is a Cincinnati Reds team. You mentioned 5-0 under the total the last 5, and they've had 5 hits or fewer in their last 5 games, Ron. And the Milwaukee Brewers aren't much better. Over their last 6 games, they've amassed just 7 hits or fewer in each one of those contests. So Sonny Gray been real good this year, right, Ron? But the one start he did have at Milwaukee this year, he didn't fare very well. He gave up 4 earned runs in 5 innings pitched. Just something to keep an eye on there. And the Milwaukee Brewers this year, when the total is either 8 or 8.5, they're 11-2 under the total. So another thing to keep an eye on. And both bullpens, even though Cincinnati's bullpen was much maligned early in the year, they've really come on of late. You mentioned Josh Hader. The Milwaukee bullpen in general has been very good this season. So I might take a small look at the under in this contest.
Well, one thing you're going to get with Sonny Gray is about guaranteed, almost not guaranteed, but 5 innings for sure, because in his starts this year, he's averaging close to 6 innings per start, 6, 6.2, 6, 5.1, 6.2, and then 6. And he's been solid. He's got a whip of 0.98, 51 Ks on the year. So, Adrian Hauser's got his work cut out for him. But looking at Hauser's numbers here, Ross, looking right here, he's got a 1 and 2 in the year, 3.72 ERA, a whip of 1.24. Doesn't match,
but not bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not bad. Hey, and he went 7 innings his last start.
Yeah.
So against Pittsburgh.
And you account for the fact Milwaukee's bullpen's pretty good. That's where I'm looking at the under in this game. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that, but that's the direction I want to go. The Milwaukee Brewers, by the way, Ron, their current roster, their active roster right now has faced Sonny Gray, has had 128 career at-bats against Sonny Gray, only 24 hits, a 188 batting average between all of them on the Milwaukee active roster right now. So a good sign there, even though Sonny Gray had a tough outing at Milwaukee earlier this year, he's shown a history to shut down the Brewers.
Kansas City taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. I mentioned a few times here in the broadcast, Cards missed an opportunity to climb back into contention in the Central. But looking at today's price, you got a 168 price here on the Cards. The over-under set at 9. ATS forecast, the computer pick. Gonna lean with KC here in a close one. 4.08, 4.02, 8.1. You got Jacob Eunice going here today for the Royals up against Dakota Hudson of the St. Louis Cardinals. And looking at our price here, Ross, I had minus 110 here on St. Louis, plus 185 on the Royals. So a bit expensive price here on the Cards. Reputation price in my view, I call it.
Yeah.
And I think you're I don't know. I think that's a bit steep if you do like St. Louis. I was looking at St. Louis yesterday, but I couldn't pull the trigger on 190. And I just said, you know what? Stay on your rule, Ron. Don't even go there. And sure enough, thank God I stayed off I followed my fundamental rules. And that was the game I scratched right off because of that price. But looking at today, 56% chance of this game going over the total. I don't know. This is a tough one to call here too.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City, they've only gone over the total in one of their last 12 games.
Oh, wow.
19-9-2 under the total this year. The St. Louis Cardinals, since 2018, 31-13 under the total when facing an American League team. Dakota Hudson, 0-3 in his team starts this year, but by no fault of his, Ron. I mean, those 3 starts, he's got a 346 and a 108 whip. And all 3 of those games have gone under. The Cardinals, the run support he got in those 3 games, the Cardinals scored a combined 5 runs in his 3 starts. So just something to keep an eye on. Both bullpens solid, not great, but solid. Might be another one you want to take a look at the under.
Yeah. Looking at Jacob Eunice's last 3 starts, he's not getting any run support. 1.67 runs for. And as a road underdog this season for Kansas City, 4-11, 2.8 runs for, 4.4 against, where St. Louis 5-3 as a home favorite. But again, they're They're just not the same cards right now.
Yeah, and then the total is 9 in this game, which, with all being considered, is really enticing if you're looking at the under.
Yeah, looking at the when the total's 9 for the cards at home this year, 0-2-1. So something to consider doing your homework.
And Hudson 14-4 under the total when the total's 9 or 9.5 in this since last year.
Seattle taking on the San Diego Padres. Now, the San Diego let one slip away yesterday.
Yep.
This was a crazy game, right? Dinelson Lamet going today against Taijuan Walker. Looking at the computer forecast, 4.9 for Seattle, 4.52 for San Diego, over under 9.42, 31% chance of winning compared to 38 for the Padres in the Raymond Report Law of Average Theory. 40% chance this game going over the total. We had our value index at minus 152 for San Diego, so overvalued here at 200, but you're getting a pretty decent pitch in Dinelson Lamet. And I know Lamet, he's a good workhorse. Like, I'm going to take a look at his
great power pitcher.
Oh, until you mentioned that last time.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a fan of his from the beginning, right, Ron? So,
absolutely.
And he hasn't disappointed whatsoever. Dangerous spot for the Mariners because San Diego coming off that loss yesterday, now with one of their best pitchers, if not their best pitcher on the hill. You would think that they have a huge advantage with Taijuan Walker going for Seattle. And that Seattle bullpen, good performance yesterday, but they've been shaky all year long. I'm going to take a good look at San Diego on the run line here today as a better value. Yeah,
and you know what? Looking at his starts this year, Ross, 5 innings, 5.2, 6.2, 6.5. That's average for like average pitchers, because you remember in the day, you get Roger Clemens, you get Pedro, you get all these guys, Greg Maddux, they would guarantee you 7 innings.
Yeah, the difference is Lamet is a power pitcher. I mean, what Clemens was too, but I think he gets, because those pitchers you're talking about back in the day, it was not uncommon for them to go 110, 120 pitches in the start. That's almost taboo now for starting pitchers. Managers, once they see that pitch count getting near 90, they got guys warming up in the bullpen and ready to pull the hook no matter what. And Lamet strikes out a lot of hitters, right, Ron? So his pitch count, I think you're looking at a pitcher whose pitch count gets up in the 90s by the 5th inning. It's just, I don't have that data in front of me, but that's my educated guess.
Yeah. San Diego 11-5 at home, 8-8 to the over/under. Where Seattle 5-11, 11-5-0 to the over. Looking at the last couple of games, it went over there under. They've been having some really wild, emotional games. Seattle in their last few, 8-3, 4-1, 10-1, 7-4. So all over the board here when it comes to the total. Just taking a quick look at some of the Rain Report stats. So here's something I'd overlooked here, and I need to mention Seattle on a 4-game win streak. And Ross, teams that are on the road on a 4-game win streak this year, the over 8-4. So not a bad little stat there.
San Diego, one of the best right now. They're the best power hitting team in the National League.
Even you mean Slam Diego?
Yeah. So. Exactly. Slam. What they hit 3 grand slams in 3 consecutive days at one point.
Yeah, I think it was 4 in 5 games or something like that.
Wow.
And then they hit another one the other night. So it's just can't keep up with these guys. Yeah. Here's a pick we both had last night, Ross. I've been riding the under in the last 2 games, and Colorado, Arizona. We hooked it last night.
Yeah, 5-4. Like one of these, right, Ron? It's it didn't look good for a while.
No, I know. It's one of those games where you see 3-3 in the second inning and say, okay, time to go watch another game.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully you pray for the best. The Rockies taking on the D-backs here today. You got John Gray going up against Robbie Ray. And good rhyme right there for a song. But looking at Rockies, minus 112, over under at 9.5. Computer forecast, going to lean with Colorado, 4.49, 4.77. The over under at 9.26. 79% chance of winning for Arizona, who are on a 7-game losing streak. And Colorado, just what the doctor ordered, a bit of a road series against Arizona because they've won 2. Our price here, we had Colorado. Look at this, minus 112. I love seeing that. That means the Rain Report is right on cue.
Yeah.
right there on the same value index, and plus 113. So you're getting fair market value on both these teams. From a public perception point of view, Ross, you got two teams that are in a bear market right now, C bearish. This, to me, I think you can flip a coin here.
Yeah, it's a tough call. And both teams playing the Colorado Rockies and Arizona Diamondbacks. Colorado struggles hitting on the road, and Arizona during this 7-game losing streak can't hit their way out of a paper bag. I think they've scored 3 runs or less, if I'm not mistaken, in all 7 of those games, Ron. But the only other factor that's conflicting here is John Gray has been a bit shaky this year, and so is Robbie Ray. So it might come down to the bullpens, and Colorado's bullpen on the road has been terrific. So, I certainly wouldn't take a team on a 7-game losing streak in this situation.
Yeah, and my rules with streaks, right? And I think I might have to write it again for a 3rd straight night. When Colorado's on the road and the total's 9.5, under a perfect 8-0.
Yeah, there you go.
LA Dodgers taking on the San Francisco Giants. Dodgers took it on the chin a bit yesterday. Johnny Cueto started that game. I just love saying his name, Johnny Cueto. Minus 240 is the price. And looking at the computer pick here, Ross, 6.93, 4.81. The over-under, 11.74. Clayton Kershaw going for the Dodgers up against Kevin Gausman today for the Giants. Now, Giants on a 7-game win streak. And,
Woo.
yeah, no one would expect the Giants to be on a 7-game win streak.
Quiet 7-game win streak, right, Ron?
What's that?
It's a quiet 7-game win streak.
Yeah, and that's, West Coast teams, right? We're almost counting the Chiefs before we get to that 10 o'clock start there. Yeah. But, you're right. It's a very quiet. And looking at them in the standings, now that you mentioned that.
15 and 16, now all of a sudden in a season where 8 teams make the playoffs in each league, they're right in the middle of a playoff spot battle.
Bad news for them, though. They got the Padres and Dodgers to deal with in the division. Looking at some of the stats here, San Francisco at home, 9-6, 10-4-1 to the over, where LA 11-4, almost identical to their home record of 11-5. But again, the computer picks he's a high scoring game at 11.74. Clayton Kershaw, I don't know if he's a young Clayton Kershaw that can give you those 7-8 innings anymore. But I'm going to take a look at his.
But you know what? Even if he can't, the Dodgers bullpen. Take away yesterday's game. The Dodgers bullpen is absolutely terrific. If you look at Clayton Kershaw's career against San Francisco, he's absolutely dominated them throughout his entire career. Kevin Gausman, one of those 4 or 5 slot pitchers in the rotation, starting pitching mismatch. Dodgers much better bullpen. Dodgers coming off a loss. If anything, I would look at the run line, and I'm not so sure you're not going to have to lay a pretty good price on the run line here too. I didn't look at the line on the run line, but off the top of my head, I would think they're about minus 125 on the run line.
So so on the run line, Ross, I got minus 145 on the Dodgers.
Yeah, there you go. You know what I mean?
And Kershaw, we talked about Pedro, Roger, and all those guys giving a minimum of 7. Kershaw's there the last couple of starts, giving them 7 innings, and he's got a nice whip of 0.79, ERA of 2.25, and 3-1 on the year. So, good spot for Kershaw today if you like the Dodgers. But again, you're dealing with a team that's pretty hot right now in the Giants. And it should be an interesting matchup. The only reason it's going to be interesting is because
you mentioned yesterday the Giants, even though they were hot and they got themselves back in the playoff race, ESPN, I believe you said, had them at a 6% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I'm just interested after yesterday's win if that increased at all.
Oh, big time. It's up to 40.1 now.
Yeah. But be careful because as Ron alluded to yesterday, they have a real tough strength of schedule in the last half of the season here.
Yeah, and that's, and we talked about this at the beginning of the year in our preview shows that teams that are in tough divisions, they'll make them better teams, but the bad news is they're competing against other good teams.
Yeah.
Then the Yankees, the final doubleheader, you got Masahiro Tanaka up against Max Fried for the Braves. The line here I have is minus 115 for Atlanta. 8.5 is the over-under. 5.09, 3.79 favoring Atlanta. The over-under at 8.88. So it does like it to go a tad over the total. 68% chance of winning compared to 38. You know what? You said it here a couple of times. So you learned from one of the top guys that you know and respected. Double headers. Take the team that lost in game one in the double headers, right?
Yeah, and this might be a good spot for that, right? Because it's a pretty even call. You know, what do we got as the current line in game two at doubleheader?
8.5 and minus 115.
Yeah, minus 115. So that might be a good no-brainer play. Whoever wins game one, go against them in game two.
Yeah. All right, Ross, we're going to go to 80% Club. Another good day yesterday for the club. I'm just going to give out one stat here today, and it's in the over in the San Diego game. The over is 10-1 for the Padres when they're a home team coming off a 5-run loss the last 4 years. So Seattle, San Diego over could be a good selection here. I'm just going to look at the Kogo real quickly for our viewers. The Kogo is at 40%, however, but
yeah, it's a good spot, though. I agree with we talked about this could be a possible over when we reviewed this game.
Yeah, so there you have it, Ross. That was hey, good show today, man. We had a little bit of fun there, and the SBI again, folks. Keep an eye on the SBI. And Ross, did you have anything to share today?
Yeah, if you go to my YouTube page, and even if you go to Ron's site, the NFL, folks, is less than 3 weeks away. And Ron mentioned this yesterday. I have 32 separate videos on each individual team predicting their regular season win totals, whether they'll go over or under that number. You could go to my YouTube channel at OSGA, or you can go to atsstats.com. You'll see several of those videos listed there. Again, folks, 2-0 yesterday. Since July 29th, my paid selections in Major League Baseball, the NBA and NHL combined, 50-29. That's 63%. Includes 28-15 in Major League Baseball, 13-7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's rbwins.com, 7-day package, $149, 30-day package, $499. If you're not making a profit at the end of each one of those subscriptions, I'll extend your packages. That's been a moot point thus far. And also the same thing applies. You can get those same subscriptions or my daily picks at atsstats.com as well.
Yeah, and also you can get my plays, premium picks on a good run right now. 4-0 yesterday. Baseball, we're on a was it 5? Let me see. We were 2-1, I think we're like 6-1 in the last few starts. So having a good run right now in baseball. And get on our newsletter by going to our website at atsstats.com. Each and every day I send out a newsletter between 2 and 4, and you can get our free picks. And yesterday, Ross, I gave out Milwaukee as our free selection. So
and I had the Clippers as a free pick on atsstats.com on my video. So
so good information. And you can get that just by visiting our websites, rbwins.com or atsstats.com. All right, Ross, great show today, buddy. For Ross Benjamin, I'm Ron Raymond. This was with Ross Benjamin, the Raymond Report Sports Betting Podcast for Wednesday, August 26th. Hope you guys have yourself a great rest of your day. As always, shop for value, play those percentages. We'll see you shortly with another Raymond Report.